Raheem Kassam joins us now on the program. He's done great work over at Breitbart, looking at all things over there in the UK and Brexit, et cetera. Welcome to the show, Raheem. Your thoughts on Theresa May's position, where she's calling this vote for the 14th of January. Is she the real deal here? Are you buying this push that she's doing, or is she a Brexit in name only?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right. It's Brexit in name only. Nobody really buys what Theresa May's doing. The public haven't been buying it for a very long time. The only people that seem to have been buying it in recent days are her own parliamentary party, the Conservative Parliamentary Party, who, as you know, had a recent vote of no confidence in her. They lost that. The Brexiteers lost that vote to remove her as Prime Minister and are now swinging in behind her and this Brexit in name only deal. So really, I mean, Theresa May is a symptom of the problem, but the Conservative Party, which is a conservative in name only party in and of itself, is the real problem here. And that goes to several things. But on the point of Brexit, we're now facing the likelihood of a bad deal Brexit. That is the current deal that we have, £39 billion paid to the European Union, no real control of our sovereignty back, no real control of our borders back, and the British people are scratching their heads and thinking, well, what the bloody hell was the point in the whole thing anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really struck by this because, look, the EU has you over a barrel. The Brits are well within their rights to walk away from a bad deal like this. It feels to me like a reversal of the Treaty of Versailles, you know, where the EU gets all this power. They're going to dictate terms to you even after you leave the European Union, and they still think they're going to get paid. Look, at what point do the British people say enough is enough? We're done, and we're gonna purge the people that are in power, that are not respecting our popular sovereignty and our desires as British subjects, and we're going to get rid of them and send them back. Like, at what point do you end up with a Tea Party movement happening there?
Yeah, and several people, it's a great question because several people and groups and movements have sprung up over the last 18 months or so trying to do just that. We've had shutdowns on Westminster Bridge in the last couple of days of people in those yellow high visibility jackets, similar to the scenes that you've seen in Paris, in France, in general over the last few months. So you can tell something is bubbling up here, but we have to come back to understand, you know, why we're in this particular situation. The party politics aside, the rubbishness of Theresa May aside, the point is Singapore, Japan, the United States, China, Australia, Canada, all of these nations have free trading relationships with the European Union. But the European Union is determined to cut Britain, cut the United Kingdom out of such a deal. Why? Because if a member state leaves the European Union and wants to maintain a good working relationship with it, that undermines the entire project of the European Union, the Eurozone, the common market, the single market, the court systems, everything, the EU army, as they're now doing. So that's what's at stake here, and it doesn't appear that the British public, or indeed the Prime Minister or the Conservative Party, have quite got to grips with that yet. Everything we do as a nation is always sort of softly catchy monkey. We'll be very polite and very forthright and very earnest about the things we do. At some point, however, especially up in the north of England, the Labour heartlands, Wales and the east of England, where real working class communities are getting frustrated about this, I predict a very significant backlash to this in 2019, and it starts with Theresa May not being able to get her deal through on January the 14th.
All right, so as you look there at Westminster, as you look there in London, I want you to look further to the east and south to Rome, because Italy's not far behind you. Italy is about to go. And I don't know that if the UK stays in this thing, if this Brexit thing fails, that the Italians are going to stay. It feels to me like the Italians are looking to try to get out as well.
Yeah, the Italians have a big problem with the European Central Bank and with the Eurozone in particular. It's really the monetary and fiscal elements of the European Union that they have the biggest problem with. Sure, there are also immigration issues, but by and large, the Italians have lived with the technocracy now for so long. They've finally got an elected government, a left-right populist coalition government, and what they're saying to the European Union is, hey, you've dictated our monetary policy to us, you've dictated our spending, you've dictated to us our our national budgets for so very long and it hasn't worked for us. We're going to do this for ourselves this time. And there's a big clash at the moment between Brussels and Rome about this taking place. And you're right. To some extent, the Italians are scratching their heads and looking at a quote-unquote Itexit. But more likely than that is that they leave the Eurozone, leave the common currency of the European Union. And that would cause great consternation for the two big powers left in there, Germany and France, who, as you know at the moment, are also at a grassroots level rejecting their globalist leaders. Angela Merkel has had to go. Emmanuel Macron has an approval rating between about 8 and 15%. I mean, you think about Donald Trump, he's on 50% and the American media says he's unpopular. Emmanuel Macron is almost in the single digits at the moment. So the whole project looks like it's on tenterhooks at the moment. And 2019, I think, I mean, President Trump was absolutely right to reject the UN Global Pact on migration, and other European member states have now done the same thing. And I think 2019 is going to see more of that. Hungary, Austria, Italy, Greece, the Czech Republic, Poland, all going to be rejecting European Union central control.
All right, let me take you down the road 6 months. Are you looking at somebody being able to run a challenge and to take up the pieces from the Conservatives? Or are we looking at a Corbyn government taking root there in Westminster?
Yeah, so I get asked this a lot by Americans who sort of scratch their heads and say, well, why don't you just get rid of the lot of them? I say, well, we have a first-past-the-post parliamentary system. It's actually very difficult. You know, I worked for UKIP in 2015 and we got 4 million votes across the country, which was absolutely massive in comparison to what we had got in the previous election, which was about 300,000. But that only led to us getting one member of parliament in a chamber of 650 MPs. We don't have a proportional system. We have a two-party system. So it does look like we're going to get a Corbyn government, especially if Theresa May fails to get her deal through. But here's the most important point about it. More, or just as likely as that, I should say, we're going to probably have a second referendum on whether or not we leave the European Union. And that both undermines democracy, it undermines the original referendum vote, it undermines trust in our politics. But I think what it will do is galvanise the British public against Brussels and say, we've told you once, we'll tell you again, and that'll be the end of it.
Great stuff from Raheem Kassam. We appreciate you coming by and helping us to understand all these complicated pieces in this puzzle.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming by. We really appreciate it and wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll get back together with you again real soon.